Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this session. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to a very interactive session we're going to be having today. And I guess we're having already some of the learners join the call. So if you're joining this session, please feel free to unmute your mic and introduce yourself. If you're one of our learners for today, feel free to unmute your mic and introduce yourself.
Good morning. My name is Rebecca Iyaro, and I work as a credit analyst in Better Plus International Senior.
Yeah, good morning, Rebecca. It's a pleasure to meet you. Who else is on the call? Please feel free to unmute yourself and introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Balaki. I work as an accountant with Better Plus International.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Folakemi. Welcome. We didn't get you quite well. I think the audio wasn't too good, but I think it's fine. We got the name as Folakemi. All right.
This is Sarah.
Okay.
Good morning. My name is Sarah Delay.
Sarah, good morning and welcome to the session. All right. So just like we had doing good morning. Who's on the call?
My name is Glory Ezike. Better Plus.
Okay. Good morning, Glory, and welcome to the session. Welcome to our session on the accountant as business transformers. It's my hope that we're going to have a very, very productive and very, very interactive session today. And part of the things that we are trying to achieve is really to deepen the competency around the field of transformation and business transformation within the accounting profession. So I look forward to a very interesting and a very interactive session with all of you. So we've got Folakemi on the call, we've got Glory, we've got Sarah, we've got Rebecca. So I guess we're still waiting on Titi. And I think it's nice to know that some of you are joining the call from different parts of the country, right? So I don't know who's joining the country from any other region aside the western parts. It would be nice to know how you're doing in that region. Do you have anyone? Fola, where are you joining the call from?
Hey everyone, I'm joining from Lagos,
Nigeria. Okay, that's fine. What about you, Rebecca? Where are you joining the call from?
Lagos, Nigeria.
Okay, that's fine. And what about Sarah? Sarah, where are you joining the call from?
Lagos, Nigeria.
Oh, okay, that's fine. And then what about Glory? Glory, where are you joining the call from?
Lagos too, Lagos, Nigeria.
Oh, fantastic. So yeah. I guess that one of the things that I can proudly say is because we're all joining from Lagos, then perhaps we all have a good sense of how the weather really is. So we can all speak in the same direction in terms of how the weather is. And I hope that you had a very productive session just before you joined us. Okay, so we're still waiting on one more learner. And like I did advise in the joining details I sent us, that we're going to be starting the session at exactly 9:15. So we still have quite a couple of minutes before we join. But what I'm going to quickly speak on is I would like that we also pay attention to some of the sound checks around your microphone, your headsets, I did this share some of the documents that will guide you in the joining details, but just please confirm that the microphone is working. Also check that the volume you set around your device is also set at a very appropriate level. Also, I'd like to inform you that this session is being recorded, so you might want to be mindful of some of the conversations. So it's always fine that you stay on mute, except you want to say something, right? I'd like that you also get very comfortable with the use of the emoticons, right? So I did share some of that in the joining details, but feel free to, maximize the use of some of those signs and the emoticons, right? If you want to ask a question, feel free to raise your hand. I'm picking it up from a second device. If you also would like to make a direct comment by way of audio, you can feel free to also unmute yourself and speak directly. And the pleasure will be mine to take it on as soon as you indicate that, right? But just as a general rule, let's just allow one person speak at a time so that we don't have conflicting opinions at the same time. So we'll maximize the use of the chat functionalities, and we'll make sure that we have a very organized and well-coordinated session today. All right, so we've got a little under 3 minutes before we start. Just a confirmation that we're waiting for Titi, and if Titi is on the call, please feel free to unmute and introduce yourself.
Okay, good morning.
Fantastic.
Okay, so my name is Titila Idris, then I'm calling from or speaking from Marina, Lagos.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. So here we have the full complement of learners, and we're all from Lagos. And just like I said earlier on, one thing I'm certain is we've all experienced the same sort of weather this morning. So it's sunny, it's bright, it's shining from where I am. I'm speaking to us from Yaba in Lagos, and I want to believe it's the same experience. Maybe by way of just checking up, is there anyone with a different weather experience? So it's sunny and very bright here. Do I have any of such experience or a different experience from any of you on the call? How's the weather condition like?
Yeah, it's sunny and very bright, the same.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, so we're going to be having our main session now on the accountant as business transformers. And I'd just like to find out from anyone, is anybody happy to just have a go on what you think, what are you looking forward to today? I'd just like to get that. I mean, what are you looking forward to today? What are you looking forward to?
Okay, hi. Hello, everyone. I'm really looking forward to see how me as an accountant will transform my business and the business in which I work with. Thank you.
For some reason, I think I find your voice very faint. I don't know if I'm the only one with that experience. But just to confirm from the rest of the class, can we hear Fola very well?
No, not really. I think she's working on it.
All right. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. So, Fola, feel free to drop your comments on the chat as well too. So that is fine. Feel free to drop your comments on the chat, and then we can have that. All right. So, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's session on accountants as business transformers. Quite frankly, the word accountant just refers to anyone working within the accounting and finance space. So we are going to put everyone into that bucket and just refer to them for the purpose of today's session as accountants, and how accountants are acting as business transformers today. My name is Jonathan, like I did say in our pre-session before today, and I work as a partner at Office Lot Consulting, and it will be my pleasure to guide us all throughout today's session. By way of housekeeping, it's a session that would last for no longer than 45 minutes, where I think that there are questions that we need to specifically deal with in a lot of detail. We might put that at the parking lot so that we can have that conversation after now. All right, so what are my expectations for today? I hope that we'll be able to understand what the drivers of change are within our profession, the accounting profession and the finance profession, if you like. I'd like that we have a clear understanding by the end of today on what business transformation means. And more importantly, in what role do we see ourselves as accountants and finance professionals, playing within the space of business transformation? So simply put, what roles can we play as business transformers? I'm going to make an extensive use in today's class of different learning methodologies. So there'll be a lot of activities that we're going to be engaging ourselves in. Then please feel free to ask me questions while I would also be asking questions. So it's going to be very interactive and very engaging sessions, and there'll be class discussion. So we're going to get views across the entirety of the learners in the class. And then also I'll draw some exercises as well by polls, during the session. Okay, and I wanted to start today and just get us moving, right? So what are your expectations from today's class? I'd just like to see the commentary in the chat box. So just please type, what are your expectations from the class? So we know if we're able to gauge by the end of the session if we've met your expectations. What are your expectations? So thank you. I can see from Folakemi, looking forward to understand how her role as an accountant can transform the business she works in. Perfect. Let's hear from other ones. Let's hear from Rebecca. Let's hear from Sarah. Let's hear from Titi. Let's hear from Glory. I'm looking forward to this. What are your expectations from today's class? Type them on the chat box and we'll pick them up. What are your expectations? What are your expectations? And what are you looking out for today? Yep, so we've got 2 more seconds to round up. What are your expectations? Okay, fantastic, right? So we're going to revisit those expectations by the end of the session very soon. A couple of them coming in. Thanks for that. I see the responses. Thank you so much for that. Yes, from Rebecca, from Titi. Thank you so much for that. All right. So just like I did assure you that we're going to have quite a couple of sessions today in terms of activities. The premise around business transformation really starts from understanding that, businesses have got to go through several couple of changes, right? So that's the first premise, right? And to really put into context all the conversations we're going to have today around transformation, business transformation, and the role of an accountant, I wanted to start by making us think for a second and just reflect, right? The accounting profession is going through quite a couple of changes. In fact, I use the word disruption. So I'd like to, get the views of the class, right? And so just give me a simple word that might describe your view on a trend you see that is disrupting the accountancy profession. So, and I would like that we have this as an audio. So just go on mute. I'd like to hear from everyone on the call. What are some of the trends that you see that you feel is disrupting the accountancy profession? I'd like to just go on mute and talk to me. So what are some of the trends? You could just use a simple word to just typify the trend you see. So what are some of the trends you see disrupting accountancy as a profession?
Can I speak?
Yes, so I would have
Hello,
wanted
can
you
I
to have
speak?
signaled your hand. Okay, that's fine. So go on, unmute yourself, go on.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so with what I've seen, I think it's not ordinary accounting profession again. We interpret it in another dimension,
Okay,
different from the start.
thank you so much, Titi. So if I hear you, Titi, there's quite a lot going on. So we're not just focused on just carrying out accounting functions, right? Okay, that's fine. Who is happy to give us another view? Yeah, Fola Kemi, yes, your hand is raised. Go on. Unmute yourself and talk to us.
So I'd like to say artificial intelligence.
Fantastic.
Can you hear me, everyone?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can. And I believe we all
Yeah.
could. Okay, brilliant.
Okay, so I said artificial intelligence. Yes, sir.
Fantastic, fantastic. Artificial intelligence, fantastic. Okay, can we get one more view? And that's fine, right? So Titi has told us other roles other than just accountancy. Folakemi brilliantly has said to us artificial intelligence.
Data analytics.
Brilliant, brilliant. Data analytics, right? Okay, Rebecca's hand is up. So Rebecca, you might want to talk to us.
So I actually wrote it in the chat box already. I said financial technology.
Brilliant. Fintechs, if you like to use the word. So financial technology. Fantastic, fantastic. And I must be very, very clear with all of us, right? All of the information, the feedbacks that I've gotten from all of you really do typify, some of the very major trends that we see. And, and somewhat you can think about it as, what is the changing role of the accountant as you have it today? Or if you want to use the word, what's the changing role of the finance professional? So I put up this picture for us to just sort of think about it for a second, right? This is an idea pictorially of your accountant today, right? You see all smiles, everyone really looking forward, with a lot of zeal, with a lot of excitement, a lot of expectations, right? So that's the kind of thing we see. So fantastic. So we're going to have this conversation now on what is driving the change. So more like, some of the responses to the earlier activity that we just did. So I put forward on the screen some of the major drivers within the accountancy profession. And in no particular order, the first one is what I'll call the rise of emerging technologies. And if you watch the slide very well, you would see some sort of pictorial depiction. So I just want to ask you, so beside the picture on emerging technology, tell me what you see, and I'll tell you what really it is. But tell me what you see around this picture I put depicting emerging technology. What do you see? So think about the picture.
I see.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Titi, your hand is raised, so feel free.
Yes, I think I can see a face of human being.
Fantastic.
A face, yes.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much for that, right? And does anyone say anything different other than the face of someone? Does anyone say any other thing different other than the face of someone? Glory, your hand is raised. You want to go on? That's fine.
Oh, sorry. I think it was just the same time Titi raised her hand. So I also see a human head, but it feels like it's like evolving or something. There's some changes happening and all of that.
All right, perfect. Okay, guys. What if I told you that actually this is just an amalgamation of different buttons on a computer screen, right? So this is just images of different boxes. So these are various cubes spread across an entirety of the computer screen, right? but what you see depicts an human face. And that quite frankly speaks to some of the novel technologies. And this is an example of a technology called the three-dimensional technology. We call it 3D technology, right? And these are some of the things we begin to find, right? There's a lot of conversation today in the technology space around augmented reality, virtual reality, and how that can transform a lot of the functions we do every day within the business world in terms of visualizing things, also in terms of providing graphical images to the sort of things we use in business, and so also aid decision making, right? And I can stretch this around emerging technologies to also involve very disruptive technologies like blockchain technologies, of which a very good example would be cryptocurrencies. And these are some of the very novel technologies we see disrupting the accountancy profession. The next one that I think is very important, especially when we think about the accounting function, is in big data and data analytics. I know that someone did make reference to that when I asked around the key drivers of change, and yes, it is. And the simple reason for this really is that, the sort of analytics we can do, and when I say analytics, which is really analysis using technology, the sort of analytics that we can do right now is quite very sophisticated, right? So as accountants, traditionally, we've been used to do what I call descriptive analytics, which is really just describing what has happened. So a lot of our financials, we perform descriptive analytics. We can describe what has happened, how profitability was like, how sales was like, what were the trends, what were the growth patterns. Those were really analyses around what has happened. Now, but with big data and the rise in the vast amount of data that an organization actually has access to, we can carry out more forward-looking analysis. So for example, based on what has happened, can we now begin to predict, what will happen in the future? So if you do an analysis based on your sales record, you do an analysis based on your cost pattern, you can now use that sort of analysis to now predict what cost might look like for your organization within the next 5 years. You might establish certain trends and might not use that to predict what cost might look like in the next 5 years, what sales might look like in the next 5 years, of which the relationship within the two can give you something around profitability. What will profitability look like in the next 5 years? So in terms of the capabilities around playing around and analyzing data, we can see a trend where we can move away from backward-looking insights to more forward-looking insights. And the big picture is that with this sort of forward-looking insights, organizations can now begin to think about new products and new services, that they can churn out, because there's the data that tells you this is what it might look like in the future for the organization. All right, many thanks for some of the responses I got earlier on. Another very important one, and Folakemi alluded to that, was when she spoke around artificial intelligence, and we can stretch that conversation to the use of robots, right? Machine learning, if you like, in finance and in accounting, right? And the simple way to think about it is there are quite a lot of very transactionary, or if I like use the word, very routine activities within the finance and accounting space. So one of the things now that businesses are leveraging on is we could use computer softwares, i.e. you could use robots, right, to carry out some of those very transactionary routine functions we do. So for example, daily reconciliations in a lot of organizations, right? Manual reporting, which is just, confirming that the report is here, confirming that the transaction has happened, just things like that, quite especially when you think about the frequency involved in performing those things. So I use the word routine transactions, routine activities within the finance space right now. These things can be automated. And the big advantage that, using robots and automating this task is that, because they are quite transactionary in nature, quite very routine in nature, we actually feel like there's not a lot of decision-making or intelligence in those functions, right? So you could get a robot relying on algorithms to perform some of these functions. And in performing some of these functions, it frees up the accountant who would have been involved in that sort of activity to now focus on more strategic things, right? We spoke a lot in the last few seconds about, forward-looking analytics, So those sort of things might be worth the while of Folakemi. Those sort of things might be worth the while of Gloria, might be worth the while of Titi. We focus on forward-thinking or forward-looking issues rather than things that are quite very transactional, very routine. And if you think about it, really, is that there's only so much that the human mind can do at every particular time. And think about the effect of things like, wear and tear. You find out that the robots are quite very efficient in doing some of these things. And this is quite novel and very, very important for the accounting profession. And then another trend I want to speak on, which I'll look at, the changing social stratification, is around the kind of generation in the workforce, right? So we refer to the kind of generation in our workforce as the tech-savvy generation, right? This is a generation that was just born, in the age and in the boom era of technology. And so technology comes very natural and very handy. That also means that the sort of work that they expect to do in the workplace has to be technologically driven. Now, let's bring that together to finance. That also means that the accounting profession as well too must be tech-driven and must be tech-enabled. So in terms of, the social impact, you're not going to be having the kind of workforce that you had, 50, 60 years ago that really looked at accounting from a very manual path, right? Now you find, youths, millennials coming into the workplace, and also that sort of growth, and experience that they've had with technology, they want to also push that into the accounting function as well. So these are some of the major trends. And the big picture with all of this conversation is that accountancy must respond to the changes that we're seeing, both in terms of the social changes and also in terms of the technological changes. You can even stretch this conversation to even regulatory changes. So there's a lot more demand on reports coming out at a faster pace. There's a lot more demand from the organization in terms of the millennials wanting to do things that are very, very technologically driven. And there's also the reality that technology has come to make business processes very, very efficient. So perhaps when we tie in a lot of all these conversations, we can now begin to see that, look, guys, accounting must respond to the reality of today's time, which is that we must begin to change, our views and our expectations on the accountancy function to something that will leverage a lot more on technology, whether it's from the prism of technology or whether it's from the prism of regulations or from the prism of the social nature of the kind of people you have in the workplace today. So is this fine? And do we have a better understanding on some of the key drivers within the accountancy function and the accountancy profession? I'd like to hear from you. And if there are any views, I'd like to hear from you as well. Are we good? Are we fine with that in terms of understanding the key drivers?
Yes, we are.
All right. Perfect. Okay, so like I told you, we're going to be doing lots of activities today. And we're going to go into the second activity for today. And the second activity for today, we'll be looking at the core around business transformation now. So what is business transformation? And I would like that, somebody goes on mute and actually speak to us. So what is your understanding on business transformation? So it's important. We've established the changes within the profession. Now, what is business transformation? I just want to get a view from some. What's business transformation? So I have chocolates for the person who participates the most. All right. So what is business transformation? I'd like to hear from all of you. And it's fine as well too.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, perfect. We can hear you.
Okay, I like to see business transformation as, for instance, culture of an organization that probably has been in existence for hundreds of years, and then all of a sudden we get to change it. That's really hard to do, or it happens. So it's like a change in the way things are done, and in the probably the management, changing things that normally wouldn't change, and then you now have better results in your business dealings. Thank you.
Brilliant. I think, Glory, that was fantastic, right? Changes in the way things are done within the organization. Very fine, very fine. In fact, I like the term change, right? I like the fact that you used that term change in what you said. Okay, I know Folakemi's hand is raised. Folakemi, please unmute and speak to us.
Yes, so I was going to say that business transformation really is about making fundamental changes on to how a business is run. Basically, you're just changing how your business is run. Yeah, so I was going to say that.
Fantastic, fantastic. And I mean, I cannot agree any less. We're having a session with accountants. So even the finance function in its own right as well too can also experience, this sort of transformation. Many thanks for that, right? So now we're going to be going into another class activity. I did say we're going to have a very interactive session, and this is really just to ensure that we all understand how accountants can play this role. And I'd just like that, we think for a second about this, right? And then that shapes, our response, right? So we've spoken about the disruptions within the accountancy profession, and we've spoken about business transformation and around how changes, can be experienced in different aspects of the business. Now, I wanted us to think for a second, right? What are the various roles that as an accountant or as a finance professional, you can play in the transformation of a business? So how can an accountant assist in the transformation of a business? All right, so this can happen. Raise your hand and we'll give you the floor. What are the various roles that as accountants you can play in business transformation? So raise your hand. My chocolate will be announced very soon. Raise your hands and tell me what are the various roles that accountants can play in a business transformation. So raise your hand and would recognize you. Raise your hand and we'll recognize you. We've had very quiet people today in the class today. I hope we're going to have the opportunity to hear from you in this exercise, actually. And I think this exercise will go to everyone. So Folakem, your hand is raised. You want to speak to us? What sort of role do you think as an accountant you can play in the transformation of business? So just what sort of role or activity can you undertake?
Okay. I would say that an accountant can help play a role in helping with fiscal analysis. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Perfect.
Okay.
We can hear you.
Yeah, I said that an accountant can help with data analytics,
Brilliant.
to let the management know, oh, this and this are the way to go, judging from the books. So I think an accountant can help in that role. Thank you.
Brilliant, brilliant. I refer to this around intelligence, providing intelligence, right? So you can be the first-hand person providing market intelligence, business intelligence for the organization. Perfect. I mean, I cannot agree any less with you. Let's hear from Titi. I'm hoping I'm going to hear from everyone. Let's hear from Titi. Titi, please feel free to unmute and speak.
Okay, another part I think an accountant can help to is being digitally equipped, like improving yourself digitally so that you can be technologically savvy. So with that, you'll be able to do a lot of transformation.
Brilliant. Guys, you guys are blowing these ideas, taking it off the roof. Awesome, right? So as an accountant, by becoming digitally savvy, right, you could also lead the digital transformation of your finance function or the accounting function. So one of such things you could do is to lead a digitalization of an aspect of your operations within the finance team. So just deciding to say some of the activities that I carry out within my finance function or accounting function on a day-to-day basis, I want to get it automated. And that's how you can also help transform a business. Because what automation would do for you is it improves the speed and the access to that information. Perfect. Perfect. I cannot agree any less with you. Rebecca, yeah, let's hear from Rebecca. Your hand is raised. Let's hear from Rebecca. And I'm hoping that after Rebecca, we hear from Sarah and Glory. So let's hear from Rebecca. Unmute and speak to us.
Yeah, so I think accountants can help in making informed decisions and strategies.
Brilliant.
So, I mean, since COVID, like accountants would have, made forecasts and made possible scenarios and decisions and and every other thing to help build a sustainable
Brilliant.
profession.
Brilliant, brilliant. And just to wrap it up for you, right, that accountants can help in terms of strategy planning, right? Scenario analysis, right? So and this is quite a deviation from the traditional things around just working with traditional numbers and financial figures, right? That the accountant can be involved in more forward-looking scenario development. Awesome, perfect, right? And I did say when Rebecca was speaking that we hope to hear from Sarah and from Glory. So let's hear from Sarah. Are you happy to talk to us?
Hello, good morning.
Yeah, Sarah, good morning. Yeah. Perfect, we can hear you. I think you might just need to adjust your audio. We can hear you. Oh, I think we're having some issues from our end. Okay, Sarah, you can type on the chat box. We can't hear you, but you can type your response while we wait for Glory. You could type your response on the chat box while we wait for Glory.
Okay.
Perfect.
I think I deepen their knowledge in researching and
Okay. Okay.
Did you hear me?
No, we lost you for a second, but go on again.
No, I said I think an accountant can deepen their knowledge in, they can be more research inclined. So
okay.
The ability to, for in a minute or second, gather a lot of information and have a profound research on the way things should go, basically.
Perfect, guys, perfect. I mean, I think you are all spot on, right? Ranging from the conversation on analytics, to intelligence, providing business intelligence, to getting involved in strategy planning, and also being involved in general research. Fine, right? Now, I wanted us to think about some of these things, right? And these are, the list is not exhaustive, right? And a lot of you provided that, So some of you spoke around being an internal business advisor. And that's the kind of role we see, right? So you find a lot of functions on nomenclatures that says, I'm the chief business advisor of the organization. And that function is domiciled within the accounting department or the accounting function, if you like. Strategy planning, it's a common thing now to see head of finance and strategy in a lot of organizations, right? Which also means, as accountants, you see the data around past activities, and then you can use that to also forecast what might happen in the future. And also, I spoke a lot. Somebody made reference to, becoming digitally savvy, and that speaks to automation. So even within the finance function, deciding to lead the transformation of the finance process, the automation of the finance process, that is perfect. That is apt, right? Sarah, we see what you're typing on the chat box. Perfect. We get you, and we can't agree any less with your views. Sarah is saying that, automating process, becoming tech savvy, things like that. And another a very important one is also in terms of facilitating international trade and investment, right? Which is really looking beyond of the shores, right? To see how we can attract capital, capital at maybe very attractive rates to the organization, at a reduced rate, at a reduced capital, right? So these are the sort of things we see. There's also a growing field around, providing advisory for transactions, knowing when a transaction is worth the while of the organization, also driving sustainability reporting, which is really looking at reporting not just on financials, but also with non-financials, right? I thought it was important to say, okay, with all of the things that we've said, we must now begin to think about some of the skill sets that will make you as an accountant ready to play the role of a business transformer. We understand what these roles are, but there will be a new set of skill sets, that we need to start honing on. Popular ones include the ability to be able to manage projects, because some of this change, I mean, if you think about the finance operation transformation, it will be structured as a project. In an age of digital, you will work in virtual and remote teams, right? So you need to be able to manage virtual teams. Leadership and governance is also very important, because you must begin to see the big picture from the prism of the strategic direction of the organization, right? And also cross-functional knowledge. One of the things you find now is that there's an increasing shift now from accountants, now playing the role of a business partner. So I'm going to conclude our session today, right, by saying that business transformation really speaks at the heart of strategy implementation, right? And if you must implement strategies and achieve that strategies, you must constantly rethink and redesign and change how things are done within the business. The accounting function, by its very nature, right, has a very broad eye view about what's going on within the organization, and hence makes them better positioned to play the role of a business transformer. So I want to recap. I know we all learned around the key drivers of business change. I know we've learned about business transformation, and we've also learned about the various roles that accountants can play as business transformers. So I'm going to say, in terms of next steps, I'm going to share the following documents with you, but please find the links to access lots of very insightful information around business transformation, and just to deepen your knowledge on business transformation and how the accountants can help in business transformation. So thank you guys for listening. I'd just like to get commentaries and questions around, possible areas you want more clarification, or just generally share with us what you've learned from today's session. All right, we're rounding up now. So what would you like to share? What were the light bulb moments? Feel free to unmute or type. What are your key takeaways, if you like? Questions, key takeaways, if you like. What are your key takeaways from today's session? What are our key takeaways from today's session? As accountants, as business transformers, what are our key takeaways? Okay, I see 2 hands are raised. Yeah, let's go. Please feel free, speak. Rebecca, let's hear from you.
I'm sorry, I didn't raise my hand.
Okay. So Fola Kemi's hand is raised.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm sure everybody
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, I said thank you very much, Mr. Jonathan. I'm sure everybody here has learned a thing or two. So for me, one of the take home will be that as an accountant, I can help transform the business in which I work with in all sorts of ways. It could be helping management to do their research. It could be the operational transformation. I can be useful, and that for me is a take home that I intend to work with. Thank you very much.
All right, guys, many thanks for your time today. As always, I'm Jonathan. If you'd like to ask me follow-up questions beyond today, please feel free to send a mail to me. My email address is displayed on the screen, or you could send me a text message. So from me to you, it's been a lovely day, and many thanks for your time. So have a very lovely day, guys, and many thanks for attending this session.
Thank you.